I am Cassandra, 34 years old, and birthdays have always been special to me. When a beautifully wrapped gift box from my parents arrived, I was genuinely surprised. My relationship with them had been strained for years, but as I eagerly started removing the ribbon, my husband Brandon burst through the door. His face went pale. "Cassandra, stop! Don't open it," he shouted. Confused, I asked why. "Can't you see it?" His voice trembled. "See what something was terribly wrong." Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like and subscribe button if you want to hear more shocking true stories like mine. Trust me, what happened next changed my life forever. My relationship with my parents was always complicated. The Matthews family was not just wealthy but influential in our community. My father, Richard Matthews, built a successful investment firm from nothing, and my mother, Eleanor, was the perfect corporate wife who managed our sprawling estate with precision. Growing up, I had everything money could buy, but missed what money could not: genuine warmth and freedom to choose my own path. Our house rules were strict and unforgiving. I remember how my father would inspect my report cards with a magnifying glass, seeking any grade below an A to lecture me about. My mother scheduled every hour of my day, from piano lessons to etiquette classes, grooming me to be the perfect daughter of the Matthews legacy. Holidays were not times for relaxation, but strategic social gatherings where I was expected to impress family, friends, and business associates. The breaking point came when I met Brandon during my final year of college. He was studying graphic design, passionate about his art, and full of dreams that had nothing to do with corporate success or social standing. Brandon saw me for who I really was, not as the Matthews heiress, but as Cassandra, the woman who secretly loved photography and dreamed of traveling the world capturing images of ordinary people. When I brought Brandon home to meet my parents, the temperature in our already cold house dropped several more degrees. My father barely shook his hand, and my mother's smile never reached her eyes. Later that night, I overheard them discussing how I could do better and that this was just a phase. The next morning, my father offered to set me up with the son of his business partner, completely dismissing Brandon's existence. I chose Brandon. We got married in a small ceremony that my parents refused to attend. My father's parting words still echo in my mind. "You are choosing to leave the Matthews way of life behind. Do not expect to benefit from it later." For 3 years, I tried to bridge the gap. I sent holiday cards, made phone calls that went to voicemail, and even drove to their house twice, only to be told by their housekeeper that they were unavailable. Each rejection hurt more than the last, but I built a new life with Brandon. We rented a modest apartment in the city center, and I found work at a graphic design company where my creative eye was valued. Brandon started his own small design studio, and though we struggled financially at times, we were happy. The last major argument happened 6 months ago, when my grandmother passed away. She had always been the softer voice in the family and had secretly kept in touch with me despite my parents' disapproval. When I attended her funeral, my parents treated me like a distant acquaintance rather than their daughter. After the service, my father coldly informed me that grandmother had left me some jewelry in her will, but everything else was going to be kept in the family since I had made my choice. That was why the birthday package came as such a shock. 3 weeks before my birthday, I received an email from my mother. The tone was different, almost warm, explaining that they had been doing some reflection after grandmother's death. She wrote that perhaps they had been too harsh and that they wanted to send me a birthday gift as a first step toward reconciliation. More emails followed, gradually becoming friendlier. There was talk about possibly meeting for dinner, about how they had been wrong about Brandon and how they missed their only daughter. Brandon remained skeptical. "People don't change that quickly," he warned, as I showed him the latest email with tears of hope in my eyes. "Especially not your parents. They spent 3 years ignoring you, and now suddenly they want to make amends. What changed?" I wanted to believe in the possibility of healing so badly that I dismissed his concerns. Maybe grandmother's death affected them more than they showed, I argued. Maybe they finally realized what really matters. Little did I know that Brandon's suspicions would prove to be more perceptive than my hope. The truth behind my parents' sudden change of heart was far darker than I could have imagined, and that beautifully wrapped gift box sitting on our coffee table was not a peace offering, but the first move in a dangerous game. My birthday morning started like any other day. I woke up early, made coffee, and sat by our small balcony watching the city come alive. Brandon had already left for an early client meeting but had set up a small gift and card next to the coffee maker. His gift was a vintage camera he had been restoring for months, knowing my passion for photography. The card promised a simple celebration later that evening, with our close friends at our favorite Italian restaurant downtown. I spent the morning working from home, finalizing designs for a new client while occasionally fielding birthday wishes via text and social media. Around 11 in the morning, the doorbell rang. I assumed it was the delivery I had been expecting for work, so I quickly opened the door without checking. A courier stood there holding a medium-sized box wrapped in elegant silver paper with a blue satin ribbon. The wrapping was impeccable, clearly professional, with a small envelope attached to the top. The courier asked me to sign for the package, mentioned it was marked as requiring special handling, and wished me a good day. The return address showed my parents' home in Westbrook Hills, the affluent neighborhood where I grew up. I placed the box on our coffee table and just stared at it for several minutes, my heart racing with conflicting emotions. After 3 years of silence and rejection, here was a tangible sign that perhaps my parents were serious about reconnection. With slightly trembling hands, I opened the small envelope first. Inside was a cream-colored card with my mother's distinctive penmanship. "Dearest Cassandra, happy birthday to our beloved daughter. We have spent too many years allowing pride to stand between family. This gift comes with our deepest apologies and hope for a new beginning. We would love to see you and Brandon soon. With love always, Mom and Dad." I read the note 3 times, tears forming in my eyes. The formal tone my mother always used had softened, and the mention of Brandon by name felt like a significant olive branch. For years, they had refused to acknowledge him as part of the family. The box itself was heavier than I expected, about the weight of a thick, hardcover book. It was wrapped in expensive paper that I recognized from the boutique gift shop my mother frequented in the city. The ribbon was tied in an elaborate bow that would take careful untying to preserve. Whatever was inside, considerable thought had gone into its presentation. I placed the box on the table and took a photo to send to my best friend Rachel, with the caption, "Guess who remembered my birthday? Should I open it now or wait for Brandon?" She immediately replied, "Open it, then call me with all the details." Just as I was about to untie the ribbon, I heard our apartment door unlock. Brandon was home much earlier than expected. I turned with excitement, eager to show him this evidence that my parents were finally coming around. But the smile froze on my face when I saw his expression. Brandon stood in the doorway staring at the package with an intensity that immediately set off alarm bells in my mind. His face had drained of color, and he was gripping his phone so tightly his knuckles had turned white. "Brandon, what is it?" I asked, my hand still on the ribbon. He moved quickly across the room. "Cassandra, stop. Do not open that box." His voice was low and urgent. "What? Why not? It is from my parents. They want to reconcile," I explained, confused by his reaction. Brandon shook his head, his eyes never leaving the package. "Do not open it. Please trust me on this. Can you not see it?" He pointed at something on the box. See what? I looked at the package again, but could see nothing unusual. "Brandon, you are scaring me. What is going on?" He took a deep breath, visibly trying to calm himself. "Just step away from the box. Okay, I need to explain something, but first I need you to move away from it." The intensity in his voice was unlike anything I had heard before. This was not jealousy or his usual skepticism about my parents. This was fear, raw and immediate. I slowly stood up and moved to the other side of the room. Brandon finally looked at me instead of the box. "I received a warning this morning. Someone contacted me with information about your parents, about a gift they were sending. I thought it was a prank or a mistake until I saw that package." "A warning? From whom? What are you talking about?" My birthday excitement had completely evaporated, replaced by a growing sense of dread. "I do not know exactly who sent it, but they claimed to know something about your parents that I needed to know too. Something dangerous. And they specifically mentioned a birthday gift that would arrive today." He ran his hand through his hair, a gesture he only made when deeply stressed. "Cassandra, I need you to look very carefully at that box. Do you notice anything unusual about it? Anything at all?" Following Brandon's instructions, I approached the gift box again, this time with careful observation rather than excited anticipation. He stood beside me, pointing out details I had completely missed in my initial enthusiasm. "Look at the tape here," he said, indicating the bottom edge of the package. "See how it has been resealed. The original tape was cut and then new tape was applied over it." Now that he mentioned it, I could see the slight difference in the tape layers, a subtle indication that the package had been opened and resealed. Brandon continued his inspection. "And the postmark on the shipping label. It says it was processed through a postal facility in Dunwood, not Westbrook Hills where your parents live." Dunwood was a small industrial area, about 20 miles from my parents' neighborhood, not somewhere they would typically mail packages from. As I leaned closer, I noticed something else strange. There was a faint odor coming from the box, barely perceptible but definitely unusual. Not unpleasant, just chemical and unfamiliar, like a new electronic device mixed with something else I could not identify. "Do you smell that?" I asked Brandon. He nodded grimly. I noticed it immediately. "And there is something else. The weight distribution is off. Hold it carefully." I gently lifted the box and realized he was right. The weight shifted unevenly, as if whatever was inside was not secured properly or was composed of multiple loose items of different weights. My hands started trembling slightly. This does not make sense. If it is not from my parents who sent it, and why? "I do not know for sure," Brandon admitted, "but I have been researching since I got that warning message." He showed me his phone screen, which displayed a website about identifying suspicious packages. The uneven weight, the resealed tape, the unusual shipping origin, these are all red flags. I immediately tried calling my parents' home number, then both their cell phones. All went straight to voicemail. This was not entirely unusual. My calls to them had gone unanswered for years, but in this context it heightened my anxiety. "Maybe we should check their social media," I suggested. My mother occasionally posted about charity events and social gatherings. A quick search revealed something that made my blood run cold. My mother had posted photos 3 days ago of her and my father in Paris, part of a 2-week European vacation they had apparently been planning for months. According to the caption, they were not due back in the States for another 10 days. "They could not have sent this," I whispered. "They are not even in the country." Brandon put his arm around me. "That is what I was afraid of. Cassandra, there have been other strange things happening that I did not want to worry you about. Last week I thought someone was following me home from work. Twice. And there have been hang-up calls to my studio line." "Why did you not tell me?" I asked, hurt that he had kept this from me. "I did not want to scare you without proof. I thought I was being paranoid." He looked genuinely apologetic. "But then 2 days ago I received this." He showed me a text message from an unknown number. "Your wife's birthday gift is not what it seems. Do not let her open it. Her parents did not send it. They are in danger too. I am trying to help. More information soon." My mind was racing. But who would do this? And why fake a reconciliation gift? It does not make any sense. Just then, my phone chimed with a new email. It appeared to be from my mother wishing me a happy birthday and asking if I had received their gift yet. The email mentioned how much thought they had put into selecting something meaningful for me. "This cannot be from her," I said, showing Brandon the email. "The timestamp says it was sent an hour ago, but according to her social media, they should be at a museum in Paris right now in the middle of the night Paris time." Brandon's expression grew even more concerned. "Someone is going to great lengths to make you believe this gift is legitimate. We need help." I thought of my friend Sarah, who worked in security for a major corporation. She had experience with threat assessment and might know what to do. I called her immediately and explained the situation as calmly as I could. "Do not touch it anymore," she advised after hearing the details. "I am coming over right now. Keep the box exactly where it is, and do not open any more emails or messages seemingly from your parents." While waiting for Sarah, we closed the blinds and moved to the kitchen, keeping the living room with the package in clear view. Brandon revealed more details about the warning he had received. The message also said something about business dealings gone wrong. "Does that mean anything to you? Anything related to your father's company?" I thought hard. Dad's investment firm handles millions of dollars for high-profile clients. There could be countless business situations that went sour. A troubling thought occurred to me. But about 3 months ago, there was a news article about a major fallout between Dad and his business partner Patrick Donnelly. They had been friends for 20 years, but apparently there was a dispute over a large European investment project. Patrick left the firm and threatened legal action. Brandon quickly searched for information about Patrick Donnelly. The most recent news article, dated just 2 weeks ago, mentioned that he had started a competing investment firm and was aggressively pursuing clients from my father's company. Could he be behind this? Brandon wondered aloud. I do not know. It seems extreme, even for a business rivalry. But even as I said it, I remembered how Patrick had always given me uncomfortable vibes at company events, the way his smile never reached his eyes, how he would watch my father with an expression that sometimes bordered on resentment despite their apparent friendship. The doorbell rang, making us both jump. Through the peephole, I confirmed it was Sarah before letting her in. She arrived carrying what looked like a small electronic device. This is a non-invasive scanner, she explained, moving toward the package. It will not tell us exactly what is inside, but it might give us some idea if there is anything immediately dangerous. As Sarah began her inspection, Brandon's phone chimed with another message from the unknown number. The signature on the card is forged. The package contains electronic equipment. Do not attempt to open it. Authorities need to be involved now. We showed Sarah the message. Her expression turned grave as she looked up from her scanner. They are right about the electronics. There is definitely something in there that is not typical gift material. I think we need to call the police. The atmosphere in our apartment grew increasingly tense as we waited for the police to arrive. Sarah continued to examine the package from different angles with her scanner, careful not to move or disturb it. There is definitely an electronic component inside, she confirmed, showing us the scanner's display, which revealed shadowy outlines of wiring and what appeared to be a small circuit board. It is not consistent with typical consumer electronics like a phone or tablet. The configuration is more specialized. While Sarah worked, I delved deeper into my search for information about my parents. I found recent photos of them at various European landmarks, the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, a cafe in Rome, all posted within the last week. I enlarged one of the images taken at their hotel and noticed something disturbing. Though my mother was smiling for the camera, her eyes held a tension I recognized from childhood, the same look she would get when forced to maintain. Appearances during family crise. Something is wrong in these photos, I told Brandon. Mom looked scared behind her smile. Brandon examined the pictures with me. You are right, and your father's posture seems stiff, unnatural, like someone is standing just out of frame. I tried calling the hotel in Paris where they were supposedly staying. After navigating the language barrier, I learned that my parents were indeed registered guests, but according to the clerk, they had not been seen outside their room for the past 2 days. Room service deliveries were accepted through the closed door, and a Do Not Disturb sign had been continuously displayed. This is not like them at all, I explained to Sarah and Brandon after hanging up. My parents are meticulous planners. Every minute of their European trips is scheduled with activities, restaurants, and cultural events. They would never waste 2 days sitting in a hotel room. Brandon's phone chimed again with another message. Check the basement storage at your apartment building. Box 23B. There is information there you need to see now. We looked at each other in confusion. How would anyone know about our storage unit? I asked. Our apartment came with a small storage cage in the basement, but we rarely used it, mainly keeping seasonal decorations and a few boxes of college memorabilia there. Sarah advised caution. This could be a way to separate you from the package, or worse, to lure you into a trap. Wait for the police before checking anything else. But as we debated our next move, there was a knock on our door. Through the peephole, I saw our elderly neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, looking distressed. I opened the door cautiously. Cassandra, dear, I am so glad you are home, she said, clutching her small dog to her chest. I have been meaning to tell you something strange. 2 days ago, I saw a man I did not recognize trying to open your storage unit in the basement. When I asked if I could help him, he claimed he was a maintenance worker checking for water damage. But he was not wearing any uniform, and he left as soon as I said I was going to call the building manager. My heart raced. What did this man look like, Mrs. Peterson? Tall, well-dressed in an expensive suit. Short gray hair. Wire-rimmed glasses. He had a very authoritative way of speaking, like someone used to giving orders. Brandon and I exchanged glances. The description matched Patrick Donnelly perfectly. The police arrived shortly after Mrs. Peterson left a female detective named Rodriguez and her partner, a forensic technician specialized in suspicious packages. After explaining the situation and showing them the messages Brandon had received, Detective Rodriguez made a call to request additional officers to check our storage unit. The forensic technician approached the gift box with specialized equipment far more sophisticated than Sarah's scanner. After several tense minutes, he confirmed there was no explosive device inside, allowing everyone in the room to exhale in relief. However, his findings were still deeply concerning. There appears to be an audio recording device inside, he explained, showing us the scan results. Very sophisticated, designed to activate when the box is opened. And there's some kind of document as well, folded into a compartment beneath the device. While the technician continued his examination, 2 additional officers reported back from the basement. They had found our storage unit unlocked, though nothing appeared to be missing. However, they discovered a manila envelope taped to the inside of the door that had not been there before. Detective Rodriguez brought the sealed envelope upstairs, carefully opening it using gloves. Inside was a USB drive and a handwritten note that read evidence of Patrick Donnelly's plan, recorded at Matthews Investment Partners' office last Tuesday. We connected the USB to Brandon's laptop, making sure to scan it for viruses first. It contained a single audio file. The recording was of poor quality, but clearly captured a conversation between 2 men. One voice I immediately recognized as Patrick Donnelly's, the partingus. He was discussing what he called the birthday package operation with someone else. Once she opens it, the device will record her voice, Patrick said on the recording. The document inside appears to be a standard contract, but it actually contains language forfeiting her inheritance rights. When she reads it aloud, examining it, we will have audio evidence of her agreeing to the terms. It will never hold up in serious legal scrutiny, but it does not need to. It just needs to create enough confusion and delay to complete the European acquisition before Richard can stop it. The other man asked about my parents, and Patrick's response sent chills down my spine. They are being kept comfortable for now. The food poisoning story explains their absence from public view. By the time anyone realizes something is wrong, the transfers will be complete. Richard was a fool to trust me with those backup access codes. 20 years building a company together, and he still thought he deserved the bigger share. Detective Rodriguez immediately called for international law enforcement cooperation to conduct a welfare check on my parents in Paris. Then she turned to me with a grave expression. Miss Matthews, it appears you have become entangled in a serious financial crime. Based on this evidence, Patrick Donnelly is attempting to use you to gain control of your father's company assets while holding your parents against their will overseas. As this information sank in, Brandon revealed the most shocking discovery yet. While we had been focused on the USB contents, he had been searching for more information about Patrick online. On a financial news site, he found an article published just hours earlier announcing that Patrick Donnelly had been named interim CEO of Matthews Investment Partners following Richard Matthews' sudden illness during his European vacation. He is taking over Dad's company, I whispered in horror. Right now, while they are trapped in Paris. Detective Rodriguez's partner entered the room with more news. We found fingerprints on the gift box that do not match anyone in this apartment, running them through the system now. Brandon's mystery texter sent one final message. I worked for Patrick. He made me help prepare the package. I cannot be part of this. Help is coming for your parents soon. As the pieces fell into place, I realized we were racing against time. Patrick's plan was already in motion, and my parents were in real danger thousands of miles away. The next few hours passed in a blur of activity. Our apartment had transformed into an impromptu command center with police officers making calls, a forensic team carefully documenting and dismantling the gift box, and Detective Rodriguez coordinating with international authorities to locate and secure my parents. The forensic technician confirmed what the mysterious texter had claimed. Inside the elegantly wrapped package was a sophisticated audio recording device designed to activate when the box was opened. It would capture anything said in the room for approximately 30 minutes before transmitting the data to a remote server. Nestled underneath was a document designed to look like a birthday card, but actually containing legal language about voluntarily relinquishing inheritance claims to Matthew's family assets and business interests. "The scheme is clever," Detective Rodriguez explained. "If you had opened this and read any portion aloud, that recording could be edited to make it sound like you were agreeing to the terms. It would not stand up in court eventually, but legal challenges take time. Time that Patrick apparently needs to complete whatever financial maneuvers he is attempting." The fingerprint analysis came back with a positive match to Patrick Donnelly on both the outer wrapping and the inner components of the package. Additionally, they found partial prints belonging to someone named Thomas Weaver, a technical specialist who had previously worked for a security firm contracted by Matthew's investment partners. "We believe Weaver is your anonymous texter," Detective Rodriguez said. "His employment at the security firm ended 2 weeks ago. We are trying to locate him now for questioning." Meanwhile, Brandon had been given permission to carefully examine the contents of the USB drive found in our storage unit. Beyond the incriminating audio recording, he discovered a folder containing copies of company documents that detailed the European investment project at the center of the dispute between my father and Patrick. "This is much bigger than a simple partnership disagreement," Brandon said, showing me what he had found. "According to these files, your father discovered irregularities in how Patrick was structuring certain investments. It looks like Patrick has been siphoning small percentages from multiple accounts over years, accumulating millions in hidden funds. Your father was planning to confront him with evidence and potentially involve regulators. That explains the urgency," I realized. "If Dad goes public with this information, Patrick loses everything, his reputation, his freedom, everything." The most disturbing discovery came when Detective Rodriguez received an update from the French police, who had finally gained access to my parents' hotel room in Paris. They had not found my parents, but did find evidence that they had been held there against their will, restraints attached to the bed frame, prescription sedatives not belonging to either of my parents, and a laptop containing a schedule for moving them to a secondary location that evening. "They were there, but they have been moved within the last hour," Detective Rodriguez informed us grimly. "Hotel security footage shows 3 men escorting your parents out through a service entrance. Your mother appears disoriented and your father is walking with assistance. They have been taken to an unknown location, but French authorities are tracking a vehicle that left the scene." My heart sank at this news. "Are they hurt? Did the footage show if they were injured?" "They appear to be under the influence of sedatives, but not physically harmed," she assured me. "Every law enforcement agency in Paris is looking for them now. The vehicle has been identified and roadblocks are being established." As we processed this information, a call came in from the Financial Crimes Unit. They had managed to freeze all major accounts associated with Matthew's investment partners based on the evidence we had provided. This would temporarily halt any attempt by Patrick to transfer or liquidate company assets. However, there was a troubling development. Patrick had called an emergency board meeting for that evening to ratify his appointment as CEO and approve a major restructuring of the company's European holdings. If that meeting proceeds and the board votes in his favor, he could still gain legal control of significant assets, the financial crimes detective explained. "We need more concrete evidence linking him directly to the criminal conspiracy before we can move to arrest him." Brandon's phone chimed with a new message. The mysterious texter had resurfaced. "Patrick will come for the recording device himself. He does not trust anyone else with it. He needs to verify it activated properly and retrieve the audio. He is planning to visit your apartment tonight while you are supposedly at your birthday dinner." This information presented both a danger and an opportunity. Detective Rodriguez immediately began formulating a plan to catch Patrick in the act. If he comes here expecting to retrieve evidence of his crime, we can arrest him on the spot. But we need to make him believe his plan is proceeding normally. "I need to call Patrick," I said suddenly, surprising everyone in the room. "He does not know we have discovered the truth. If I call him pretending I just received the gift and am confused about its contents, it might reassure him that his plan is working. We could even confirm when he plans to come retrieve the device." Detective Rodriguez considered this for a moment. "That could work, but it would be risky. We would need to coach you carefully on what to say, and the call would need to be monitored and recorded as evidence." I felt a surge of determination. "I can do it. These are my parents we are talking about. I have known Patrick my entire life. He was a regular guest at our dinner table, attended my high school graduation. He will not suspect that I know what he has done. After some deliberation, the plan was approved. The police set up recording equipment, and Detective Rodriguez coached me on how to keep the conversation natural while extracting the information we needed. The goal was to confirm Patrick's involvement and, if possible, learn more about my parents' situation. With trembling hands but a surprisingly steady voice, I made the call. Patrick answered on the second ring. "Cassandra, what a pleasant surprise," he said smoothly. "Happy birthday, my dear. How are you?" "Thank you, Patrick," I replied, trying to sound normal. "I actually just received a gift that the card says is from my parents, but I am a bit confused. I thought they were in Europe." There was the briefest pause before Patrick responded. "Yes, they are. They asked me to arrange delivery of their gift before they left. They wanted to make sure it arrived on your actual birthday. Did you like what they sent?" "That is so thoughtful of them. And you," I said, forcing warmth into my voice. "I have not opened it yet. I was waiting for Brandon to get home so we could open it together. We are going out for dinner soon to celebrate." "Ah, I see." Another slight pause. "Well, I would open it sooner rather than later. Your mother put a lot of thought into selecting something meaningful. Where are you having dinner? Perhaps I could stop by afterward and hear what you thought of their gift." The question was exactly what we had hoped for. I mentioned the name of the restaurant Brandon had originally planned for my birthday dinner, adding that we would probably be there until around 9:30. "Perfect," Patrick said. "Perhaps I will give you a call tomorrow then. Your parents are eager to hear your reaction." "Have you spoken to them recently?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "I have been trying to reach them all day to thank them." "They have been quite busy with their itinerary," Patrick replied smoothly. "Poor cell reception in some of those old European buildings. I am sure they will call you soon." After a few more minutes of seemingly innocent conversation, we ended the call. The moment I hung up, Detective Rodriguez nodded in approval. "Well done," he took the bait. "He believes you will be out tonight, giving him the opportunity to retrieve the device. And he inadvertently confirmed his connection to both the gift and your parents' current situation. The trap was set. Now we just had to wait for Patrick to walk into it." With confirmation that Patrick would likely come to our apartment that evening, Detective Rodriguez assembled a comprehensive plan. 2 plainclothes officers would be stationed inside our apartment, hiding in the bedroom and closet. 3 more would be positioned in unmarked vehicles outside the building. The gift box, now thoroughly examined by forensics, was carefully reconstructed to appear undisturbed and placed in its original position on the coffee table. "We need to make this look convincing," Detective Rodriguez explained. "Everything must appear exactly as Patrick would expect it to be. That means you two should create evidence of having left for dinner. Lights turned low, perhaps a note on the counter, mentioning when you will be back." Brandon and I followed her instructions, preparing our apartment as if we were indeed going out for my birthday dinner. I even applied fresh perfume near the door to suggest we had recently left. The original plan was for us to be completely away from the apartment during the operation, waiting at a nearby police station for news. However, I strongly objected to this arrangement. "These are my parents," I insisted, "and this is my home being invaded. I need to be here when you arrest him. I need to see his face when he realizes his plan has failed." After much discussion, a compromise was reached. Brandon and I would wait in a neighbor's apartment across the hall where we could remain safe but close enough to be brought in immediately after Patrick was apprehended. We would be able to monitor the operation through audio feed but would not be visible or at risk. While final preparations were underway, we received encouraging news from France. Paris police had identified the vehicle transporting my parents and were tracking it through the city. The French officers were planning to intercept it before it reached its destination, but they were proceeding with caution due to concerns about my parents' safety. "The operation in Paris is scheduled for 9:15 our time," Detective Rodriguez informed us. "That gives us approximately 2 hours. Based on your conversation with Patrick, we expect him to arrive here around 9:30 after he believes you have left for dinner." As we waited in our neighbor's apartment monitoring the audio feed from our own unit, Brandon held my hand tightly. The tension was almost unbearable. Every minute felt like an hour as we listened to the occasional whispered communications between the officers in position. At exactly 9:12, a message came through from the international liaison. The French police operation was underway. We held our breath waiting for news. 7 minutes later, the report came in. My parents had been successfully recovered. They were disoriented from sedatives, but otherwise unharmed. They were being transported to a hospital for evaluation with a police escort for security. Tears of relief streamed down my face. "They are safe," I whispered to Brandon. "They are actually safe." But our ordeal was not over yet. We still needed to catch Patrick and obtain enough evidence to ensure he would face justice for what he had done. At 9:27, the officers outside reported a silver Audi pulling into the guest parking area of our apartment complex. Through the peephole of our neighbor's door, we watched as Patrick walked confidently down the hallway toward our apartment. He was dressed immaculately in a business suit, looking every bit the successful executive with no outward sign of the criminal activities he was orchestrating. Patrick checked the hallway carefully before removing a key from his pocket. This was shocking to see. He had somehow obtained a key to our apartment. He let himself in, quietly closing the door behind him. Through the audio feed, we could hear his movements inside. The rustle of his clothing as he moved directly to the coffee table where the gift box sat. The slight creak of our floor in that spot that always announced a visitor's presence, then his voice speaking softly to someone on the phone. "I am here now. The apartment is empty. The package appears undisturbed, exactly where my source said it would be." A pause. "Yes, I will verify the recording activated properly and retrieve the device. The board meeting is still on for 11. By then, we should have everything we need." There was the sound of the gift wrapping being carefully removed, then a sudden commotion. Detective Rodriguez's voice rang out clearly. "Police freeze. Put your hands where we can see them." The audio feed captured Patrick's shocked exclamation, followed by the sounds of a brief struggle and the officers identifying themselves again. Within moments, Detective Rodriguez was at our neighbor's door, telling us it was safe to come over. When we entered our apartment, Patrick was handcuffed and seated on our couch, surrounded by officers. His perfect composure had crumbled, his face ashen, with shock and anger. When he saw me, his expression morphed into one of calculated charm. "Cassandra, there has been a terrible misunderstanding," he began, his voice taking on the persuasive tone he had used in countless business negotiations. "I was simply delivering a message from your parents." Detective Rodriguez cut him off. "Save it for your lawyer, Mr. Donnelly. We have your fingerprints on an illegal recording device, evidence of you breaking and entering and recorded conversations, detailing your involvement in kidnapping and fraud." As if on cue, her phone rang with an update from France. She answered, listened briefly, then turned to address the room. "The French authorities have searched Mr. Donnelly's Paris apartment. They found detailed plans for the company takeover, communications with the men who were holding the Matthews, and offshore account information showing significant funds already diverted from Matthews' investment partners." Patrick's confident facade finally crumbled. His shoulders slumped, and for the first time I saw the true person behind the polished exterior, a desperate, jealous man who had spent decades in my father's shadow, gradually building resentment that had eventually consumed him. He always had everything, Patrick said bitterly, almost to himself. The better office, the bigger house, the perfect family. I helped build that company just as much as Richard did, but he always took the credit, always had the final say. When he discovered those accounts, he was going to ruin me. I had no choice. "You had every choice," I replied, finding strength in the knowledge that my parents were safe. "You chose greed over friendship. You chose to betray people who trusted you. And now you have lost everything anyway." As the officers prepared to take Patrick away, he looked up at me with cold eyes. "Your father is not the saint you think he is, Cassandra. Ask him about Geneva 2008. Ask him where that initial capital really came from. You think you know your family. You have no idea." I refused to let his final attempt at manipulation affect me. "Save your stories for the judge, Patrick. Whatever my father may or may not have done, he would never have put my life at risk or tried to tear apart my family." After Patrick was taken away, Detective Rodriguez informed us that we would be able to speak with my parents as soon as they were cleared by the hospital. The immediate danger had passed, but there would be months of legal proceedings ahead as the full extent of Patrick's crimes was uncovered. Brandon put his arm around me as we stood in our now quiet apartment. "I never doubted your parents loved you," he said softly. "I just never expected their business partner would go to such extremes to hurt them and you." I leaned against him, exhausted but relieved. The irony is that this horrible plot might actually bring us back together as a family. Sometimes it takes nearly losing something to realize how precious it really is. 3 weeks after the dramatic events surrounding my birthday, I stood nervously in the arrivals area of the international terminal. Brandon squeezed my hand reassuringly as we watched passengers emerge from customs. Despite speaking with my parents several times by phone since their rescue in Paris, this would be our first face-to-face meeting in over 3 years. The investigation into Patrick's crimes had revealed the full extent of his elaborate scheme. For months, he had been systematically undermining my father's position at the company while simultaneously diverting funds to offshore accounts. When my father discovered financial irregularities and confronted him privately, Patrick accelerated his plan, taking advantage of their scheduled European trip to essentially kidnap my parents and attempt to gain control of the company in privately. Their absence. The most painful revelation was learning that Patrick had been monitoring our lives for months, gathering information about my strained relationship with my parents to exploit it in his plan. The emails I had received supposedly from my mother expressing a desire for reconciliation had been crafted by Patrick using his intimate knowledge of our family dynamics. He had correctly calculated that my desperate hope for healing would make me vulnerable to his scheme. "There they are," Brandon said, softly pointing toward the gate. My parents appeared looking thinner and more fragile than I remembered. My mother spotted me first, her composed facade crumbling as our eyes met. Without hesitation, I rushed forward and embraced them, both years of hurt temporarily forgotten in the relief of their safe return. "Cassandra," my father whispered, his voice breaking with emotion. "My brave, smart girl." Back at their house, the grand, imposing mansion that had always felt more like a showpiece than a home, we sat in the sunroom, the awkwardness of our long estrangement gradually giving way to tentative conversation. My mother kept reaching over to touch my hand as if reassuring herself that I was really there. "We owe you both an apology," my father finally said, looking from me to Brandon. "Not just for what happened with Patrick, but for everything before. We were wrong about so many things." My mother nodded, tears in her eyes. When those men held us in that hotel room, all I could think about was how we had wasted years that could have been spent being a family, how we might never get the chance to make things right with you. Brandon, whom they had once dismissed as unsuitable for their daughter, was now regarded with newfound respect. My father actually stood to shake his hand, acknowledging that Brandon's suspicions and quick thinking had played a crucial role in unraveling Patrick's plot. "You saw what we could not," my father told him. "Patrick was like a brother to me for 20 years. I trusted him completely. That blindness nearly cost us everything." Over the following months, healing began in earnest. My parents made genuine efforts to understand the life Brandon and I had built together. They visited our apartment, meeting our friends, and seeing my work at the design firm. My father, once dismissive of careers outside the financial world, asked thoughtful questions about Brandon's graphic design projects and seemed genuinely impressed by his creativity and business sense. For my part, I worked through the complex emotions of reconciliation. There were difficult conversations about the past, about expectations and disappointments on both sides. Professional therapy helped us navigate these discussions constructively, gradually replacing old wounds with new understanding. The legal proceedings against Patrick continued, with both my parents testifying about the fraud and kidnapping. The board of Matthews Investment Partners underwent significant restructuring, with my father taking a less central role as he reassessed his priorities. To everyone's surprise, he asked me to consider joining the company in a new capacity, heading a division focused on socially responsible investing. "You always had an eye for what truly matters," he told me. "Perhaps that perspective is exactly what the company needs now." 6 months after that fateful birthday, we gathered for a very different kind of family celebration. Brandon and I had moved into a house closer to my parents, bridging the physical distance that had once symbolized our emotional separation. As we sat around the dinner table with close friends and family, my father raised his glass in a toast. "To second chances," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "and to the wisdom that sometimes comes only after nearly losing what is most precious." Later that evening, as Brandon and I walked in the garden behind my parents' house, I reflected on the strange journey that had brought us to this point. It is ironic, I said. Patrick intended to destroy my family, but his actions ultimately helped heal it instead. Brandon nodded thoughtfully. The package that was meant as a trap became the catalyst for everything that followed. Sometimes the darkest moments lead to unexpected light. The painful experience had taught me profound lessons about family forgiveness and the nature of trust. I learned that relationships require constant nurturing and honest communication, that assumptions about others' motives can lead us astray, and that true strength often emerges in the face of adversity. Most importantly, I discovered that healing is possible even after years of hurt, that the bonds of family can be restored when all parties are willing to acknowledge past mistakes and commit to a different future. The reconciliation with my parents was not perfect or complete, a work still in progress, but it was genuine and growing stronger each day. As I consider my journey from that birthday package to where I am now, I realize that sometimes the most valuable gifts come disguised as challenges. The path to healing is rarely straight or easy, but the destination makes every difficult step worthwhile. I would like to ask you, have you ever had a misunderstanding or conflict that ultimately brought you closer to someone important in your life? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story touched you in any way, please hit the like button and subscribe to hear more stories of healing and redemption. Your support means everything to me as I continue sharing these personal journeys. Thank you for joining me today, and remember that even in our darkest moments, there is always a path forward if we have the courage to take it.